Have you wondered about living elsewhere in your retirement? Well, we have almost daily. No, it's not a simple decision, especially when two people are involved.
Hi, this is
Gil
and Gene of Retire There, a podcast about retirement destinations. We live in Brooklyn, New York. Having grown up and worked in this area of the country, we're hoping to relocate when we're both retired. For us, it's the weather, the chaos, the noise, and the yearning to be near nature and not within 3 feet of human beings.
That's right. In February 2020, we embarked on our journey to find that special place. We spent a week in Winter Park, Florida, which is beautiful, but something said it wasn't for us. As we were planning for the next trip, the pandemic arrived. Gene then gave birth.
I gave birth?
To this podcast. With so many baby boomers retiring, many must be relocating. Why not connect with and learn from them?
Here's a little background about us.
I'm Asian, born in Brazil, and grew up in Flatbush, Brooklyn. I'm an engineer turned attorney turned podcaster. I recently retired from a university career practicing higher education law. I loved the academic environment, but it was time to do something else. I no longer have to set an alarm, drive in BQE traffic, or work with people who don't always share the same principles. Ooh, did I just say that? You bet I did. I traded all that in to binge crime dramas into the wee hours, just a little bit, to develop the podcast, to volunteer, practice metalsmithing, tackle our possessions. No regrets so far. Gene?
I'm not Asian, and as Gil mentioned, I'm not retired. I'm just plain tired.
Oh.
Born and raised in Long Island, New York, a place I always wanted to leave. I'm a law librarian working in a court who loves his job, but we're retired by the time we select our ideal location. We will be speaking to folks from across the street to across the globe who have moved to their dream venues and more. So please stay tuned, and remember, if you know anyone who has moved anywhere for retirement, let us know.
Thank you. Welcome to Retire There with Gil and Gene. With all due respect, we are going to the sticks today, specifically to the historic mining town of Pearce, Arizona. Pearce is located in southeast Arizona and has a population of around 2,200. It is situated between the Cochise Stronghold, Chiricahua National Monument, and the Winter Sandhill Crane Refuge of Whitewater Draw, making it popular for birders, history buffs, hikers, and climbers. At 4,400 feet of elevation, the area is also known for its milder summers, which make it ideal for quality grapes and vineyards. It's recognized as an American viticultural area. In 2017, our guests, Donna and Gary Brown, retired and sold their home in suburban Bloomfield, Colorado, which is near Denver, to travel the country in their RV with their dog, Toby. They were enjoying the journey while searching for a new place to live. And in 2019, they chose rural Pearce, Arizona as their home. And now a little bit about the Browns. It is often said, if you don't pursue your dreams when you are young, you will never have that opportunity again. That has not been the case for Donna and Gary Brown. In the summer of 73, Donna, a young guitar player, went to check out a band that practiced in a garage a couple of miles from her childhood home in Chicago. There she met Gary, the guitar player who Donna eventually married. Donna and Gary formed an immediate connection, fast becoming collaborators, and decided to start a new band. Donna, being a fan of mythology, called the new group Medusa. In 1975, the band recorded a few songs and released a 45 record. For you young ones out there, a 45 has only 2 songs on it. I know, you wouldn't need to touch one. You just go on your app and, fiddle around and whatever. Not long after those recording sessions, Donna headed off to Truman College to become a registered nurse. That was it for the band, so they thought. Gene?
In February of 2012, a phone call changed their lives and gave them a second chance. While still working as a nurse in Colorado, Donna received a phone call from a Chicago record label. It turned out that someone had found a copy of Medusa's 1975 45 record and given it to someone at the record label. The record label asked if Medusa had any more songs. Luckily, one of the band members had saved the tapes in his attic. Gil, you never want to save anything, right?
Well, I guess so.
Shortly thereafter, Medusa's first album, First Step Beyond was released internationally. Instead of retiring, Donna and Gary reformed Medusa and toured the U.S. for a year and a half. They were mobbed everywhere they played, and the music, created in the 70s, was receiving worldwide attention. Donna turned the story of Medusa into an autobiography. The title is Finding Medusa, The Making of an Unlikely Rock Star. Donna also wrote a murder thriller mystery called One Moonlit Night, which came out this year. Donna is an author, musician, certified yoga teacher, including chair yoga, mime, and former RN with over 35 years of nursing experience. She is also an avid runner, hiker, cross-country skier, and has climbed Mount Rainier in Washington, Mount Hood in Oregon, and 22 of the 54 14,000-foot peaks in Colorado.
Gary was born and raised in Chicago. He worked in the printing industry from the age of 19 to 63 when he retired. His main hobbies are playing guitar and photography. Gary's music career began when he cajoled his mom into purchasing a General Electric guitar, which worked with the General Electric stereo, which he received for Christmas. Gene, did you know that GE made these things?
I had no idea, and I'd love to see one. I'm going to look it up later.
Yeah. I mean, I worked for GE, and I went into the GE store one time, and there were phones, T-shirts, and they had mugs and all sorts of outsourced things. And I worked for the jet engine division. Not that you could buy one of those, but
no guitars, huh?
There were no guitars, no stereos. After looking into this a bit, it was outsourced to a Japanese company, which actually made it just for GE. So that's some cool stuff you got, Gary. Do you still have these things?
Oh, no.
Oh, man. Can you
bad.
imagine what they would go for on eBay? This week alone, all right, in the last 24 hours, I sold 3 things on eBay. I think because people are actually thinking of the holidays, and I couldn't believe it. So I made like $57. Not bad. So, Donna and Gary, welcome to Retire There. What made you retire from suburban Denver town to the rural ghost town of Pearce, Arizona?
Part of it was insanity, I think. And another part of it was we had split around that time that we were thinking of moving. We had been considering what we're going to do for retirement. We wanted to leave Colorado because a lot of it was due to frustration. That's where we had our reform band. That band had split. So we were pretty frustrated. We couldn't find any other musicians that wanted to play the type of music that we were playing at the time. So that was a good part of it. And it was just time for us to leave, do some traveling, which I'd always wanted to do. So we bought ourselves a 23-foot travel trailer and bought, threw away 3/4 of our worldly possessions to fit into this 23-foot travel trailer, leaving room for our Sheltie, our dog, to come with us. And we committed full time to traveling across the country in our trailer. So we traveled all around, and after about 2 years full time traveling, we kind of wanted to find a base, kind of like a home base, and we wanted it to be somewhere warm. Having lived in Colorado, the snow really didn't bother me that much, but Gary, it did for sure. So we wanted to find kind of mellow place weather-wise. And we eventually, through some real estate agents, found this kind of remote area called Pearce, Arizona, that we found a house and moved in, and we've been there ever since.
So you traveled with your RV all around the country. Did you find other areas that were of interest? Or I'm just trying to picture, you were all over the place. How did you just zoom in on Pearce?
There was a lot of other places. My gosh, we were everywhere from the Adirondacks all the way down to the
Big Bend in Texas.
Big Bend.
From coast to coast,
Texas.
we were hiking in New Jersey and all the way out to California.
So there were a lot of contenders, a lot of places that we looked at just didn't speak to us other than musical places like Austin, Texas, where we had a chance to play with other musicians. Mm-hmm. But there was nothing outdoors in that area. It was all music related. So we wanted something that would give us kind of a little bit of both, and just, kind of settled for the place that we ended up at.
Well, plus we stayed in Tucson camping one time that we headed out to California, and then we came back, and Donna said, this feels like home to me. Bingo. Here we are.
Oh, wow.
Was there anything that you could pinpoint that made you say that? I mean, there's got to be something that said, this feels like home to me.
I guess it was very moderate weather. We at that time didn't experience the charbroiling summers. The weather seemed really mellow, and it just, seemed like we were trying to escape city because that's where we were brought up all our lives in big cities. And this kind of gave us kind of a rural setting, and we wanted something a little bit more remote.
So are there 4 seasons? Let's stay on weather for a second.
Sure, it's hot and cold. That's it.
And does it get as hot as Phoenix?
No.
Phoenix gets into the sometimes upper 120s.
Whoa.
Wow.
Well, I don't know about 120s, but at least towards 120.
Towards 120.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
man.
us, we're 4,400 feet. Sometimes we reach 100 and maybe a little bit over, but that's pretty much as hot as it gets.
Okay. And there's no snow ever?
We'll get maybe an inch once a year.
Oh.
So maybe I think our last snowfall was maybe 1st of January, something like that. And we got maybe an inch, maybe 2 inches tops. But
All right. So no shoveling required.
no, not
That's
like
gotta be
back
nice.
in Chicago and not like back in Colorado. Literally one year, it snowed, I think, on Friday into Saturday, and the whole weekend was spent shoveling like a foot of snow.
Oh.
And then the sun comes out and it starts melting the rest of it. And then it snowed again for another foot the next week.
Where was that?
And then
That
the
was in
week
Colorado?
after that, in Colorado, yeah. So it's like, there's nothing more pleasant than getting up at 5:30 in the morning outside to shovel snow and go to work.
Yeah.
I have a question. For retirees, what are some of the pros and cons of living in a rural town?
No place to work out here if we wanted to.
Yeah, that's definitely con. Gary and I have both been looking for jobs. Basically, I was able to get a cashier position at Walmart in a town that's Benson, about 40-minute drive away from where we live. It was micromanaged, and I stayed there for a month. I'm surprised I stayed there for a month. So basically finding work, especially in a very remote area. Some of the cons are not having, a lot of traffic, not having a lot
That's
of...
a pro, you mean, right? That's a pro.
That's pro, for sure.
Say it again. So the pros are not having a lot of traffic. What else?
Not having a lot of people around you, milling around, people in your face, people coming at you from every direction. I'm sure in New York, what that's about. And
No, we never get that here. There's never anybody near us.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Excuse me. I have a sign, not a sign, but I have
Yes.
a floor mat right outside the door, and it says, "Go away."
She also has a rock in front of our little garden in the front of the house that says "Go away." Also,
yes.
she has a sweatshirt that says "Go away." Her new name is "Go away."
No, I really don't like people. So that present company excluded. But there are people that, get on your nerves or they come right up to you. And at the same time, I have a neighbor who lives like 2 doors down. And one day after we were here for 12 years, I was trying to find a spot down there, and he comes up to me. He goes, "May I help you?" And I'm like, "I'm your neighbor."
For 12 years.
All right.
So, but you, Donna, you're a yoga instructor, right? Is that voluntary, or do you get paid for that?
It's mostly voluntary, and I'm really glad to do that for the community. I feel like I'm really doing a really good service for the community, especially during the COVID times where people could convene and, have some sort of social activity, and to keep their wellness, to keep their fitness. So I do 2 yoga classes per week. One is for free moving people who can get up and down off the floor. And then there is a chair yoga class for people who are less mobile. So all I ask for are donations, whatever. If people can donate a quarter, so be it. The most important thing is that I'm doing good for people.
Oh, that's great.
That's so nice.
They must really appreciate you.
Yes, I feel like people are very, very happy that they have these activities. There's not many activities unless you're into quilting or line dancing, which Gary and I are into neither one.
Sorry. Line dancing.
So you two are originally from Chicago, and you're in the band that played all across the United States.
Actually, the band in Chicago did do that.
But I mean, once you left Chicago, but your band did play all across the United States. So, and you've also seen a lot of bands, and I love to see bands. I go out once in a while. Gil doesn't like to go, but I still go to small clubs and see bands in New York. Does that bother you that you're in a place where you can't do that anymore?
Yeah, kind of, sort of.
Yes.
I mean, Colorado, there was a lot of places you could go to see bands. They had a beautiful venue. I think it was once a year they would have the Blues from the Top Festival. So you could go up to Winter Park, and it's just, you're up and eye to eye with all the mountain peaks around you. And
wonderful musicians.
Yeah.
You did tell us there is some musical activity in your town, and it's by you guys. Played the other night. How'd that go?
It went really well. We just basically, this community being so rural and so isolated, so many people have been telling us that they really, really are longing for some sort of social activity. So music really serves that purpose, and we were very well received. We got a great applause. People just want to be entertained.
That's great. Nice. Where did you play?
A little coffee house called Talking Irons Coffee Saloon. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
How many does the place seat or stand?
I don't know, there's maybe 40 people there or something.
Oh, that's a lot. Yeah. Wow.
It's a nice sized coffee house.
Oh, that's great. But that 40 people showed up for them. That's great.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, nice little patio. We were jammed in the corner, but that was nice because, we had our little space and everybody sat around tables or whatever, and they enjoyed us. And so we're going to try to work this out where the drummer that played with us, he was a djembe / conga player. Mm-hmm. And so he's got a little trio, and then he plays with us. So we're going to try to work it out so that maybe his band and us will play like the first week of the month, maybe the third week of the month, and then, just keep doing that to give people something, at least a little bit of something, as far as music.
Yeah,
I know
great.
One woman came up to us and said, boy, you guys really need to do this more because we really need this.
Oh, that must have made you feel great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Yeah, and just a little quiz for our audience. So Gary and Donna, one of them saw the Beatles live, and one of them saw Elvis live. Who do you think saw the Beatles live?
Who are you asking, Gene?
Okay, it's Donna. and Gary saw Elvis live, not Presley, not Costello, by the way. And Gary, was that white jumpsuit sequin Elvis?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. It was.
He did all the karate moves and all that stuff. And, and it's interesting because I read an article that he really never rehearsed with his band. He said, these are the songs I want to do. They learn the arrangements, and he would just get up there and sing.
What made you go to an Elvis show?
Ma. As soon as I graduated high school, the last thing I wanted to do was hang around with Ma. But she goes, you know what? I want to see Elvis, and he's coming to the Chicago Stadium. We're going to go get tickets. It's like, okay.
She was a big Elvis fan?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny.
And I became an Elvis fan because of it, because it was a great, great show.
It was. Yeah. Oh, wow. Even at that stage of his life.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, about 5 years later, I think he passed away.
Yeah.
But it was a great show. They had the Sweet Inspirations as an opening act. They also had a comedian that actually opened the whole show. And then he came on. They did the whole
That's funny.
And then he just goes walking out and everybody goes nuts. And then he just jumps right into the first song and just killed it.
Wow.
And Donna, when you saw the Beatles, could you even hear them?
Mm-hmm. What? No. Oh my God. I was inundated by shrieks, the likes I can't even explain.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in the 35th row. I did not take my mother with me. I was in the 35th row, and the Beatles all looked like ants on the stage, but I didn't care.
Oh my goodness.
Just to even partially hear their music was just phenomenal. It was just beyond words.
She cried over a picture of Paul most of the show.
Oh, you were a Paul person.
A Paul fan. That picture got soaking wet, and I had to wring it out at the end of the concert.
Yeah. Who did we see, Gene?
We saw. And it was our son's first concert. It was Ringo's 70th birthday at Radio City Music Hall in New York City. And
we were in the back.
We were up in the balcony. It wasn't bad. It was second row in the balcony, but it wasn't bad. Paul McCartney showed up at the end.
Wow.
But the funny thing about that show.
We were wondering if he was going to show. Yeah.
But the funny thing about that show is that we have a friend and she's really into music. She sings. She has a band. She's a great singer. And her and her husband, who was also named Gary, by the way, they went to the show. And usually Gary buys the tickets. But this time she bought the tickets and it was the last row of the orchestra. So they get in, they go sit down. And Gary, not you, but her husband, Gary, is complaining the whole time. I should have bought the tickets. I can't believe you bought the tickets. We're in the last row. We can't even see Ringo, blah, blah. Until right before the show started, 3 big guys come, check out the row. And who sits next to our friend, but Paul's wife, Paul's girlfriend, who's now his wife.
Linda.
No, not Linda. I don't know what the new wife is.
Oh, God. No. Oh,
so Paul's girlfriend sits next to our friend. Next to her is Paul. Oh. And then I think it was the woman's niece or something like that. And then the 3 guys. So our friend, our friend sat next, I had it wrong. Our friend sat next to Paul. Whoa. And so he never complained about those tickets again.
That's a great story.
Wow.
Should have got you an autograph,
But the funny thing was the woman in front of them started screaming. So Paul said, and I can't do an English accent, but he said, love, that's not a good idea. And the woman kept quiet.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Maybe he said just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Maybe.
Yeah, okay. Let's go back for a moment to Pearce, which seems to be quite secluded. Talk to us about the healthcare. Is that an issue out there?
They got one little small Sunsites medical clinic, and they've got, I think, a couple of nurse practitioners working in there. Then we have the Wilcox, Arizona Hospital. I don't know what the name of it is, but it's up in Wilcox. It's about maybe 25, 27 miles away, something like that.
Not bad. Mm-hmm.
But, and luckily we have a fire department with an ambulance that could get us someplace if we needed to.
Oh, so that's good.
Yeah.
So the whole closest hospital, you said it's 20 minutes away or 25 minutes?
Yeah, about 25, 27 miles, somewhere around.
Oh, that's not bad.
No.
What about primary care physicians and dentists and stuff like that? Do you have to go further or around?
We got a dentist in Benson,
which is about 40 minutes from where we live.
Okay.
And then we have a primary care down in Bisbee, Arizona, which is
and that's about
the border.
An hour drive from where we live.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Then we got a vet that's in Bisbee also for the dog. And then we have a neurologist that we both see, and he's up in Phoenix. So luckily we get to do this kind of stuff or by cell phone. So.
Oh, good.
But otherwise, how far is Phoenix, the drive?
It's about a 3-hour drive.
Whoa.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
and how far is Tucson?
Tucson is about maybe about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So you're not really off the grid. I mean, and you have neighbors around, I guess, or are you really? Okay.
Yeah, it's just like a regular neighborhood in a city. Only less people and less. Okay, so we live in it's not a cul-de-sac, but it's a court. And so you go in one end, you go around, and then you come back out the other end. And, it's houses right next to each other.
Okay.
And talking of housing, what's the housing cost in that area? Would you know these days? I
think the people that took us up to Montana, they bought a place for about $144,000. We paid $97,500 for ours, and it's about, I think Donna says, like 1,100 or 1,200 square feet, something like that.
And is that a single floor, like a ranch
style house? Yeah.
So you can get a house for about $100,000, or maybe a little more now.
Yeah, probably. And I think the prices have been going up as of lately. So.
Yeah.
And what about utilities and all that other stuff? Are the costs less than Colorado?
Well, let's see. We're paying, I think, $70 to $80 a month for our Wi-Fi system, which is, kind of similar to, I guess, any other kind of internet connection, because the Wi-Fi system here seems to work pretty good. It's not like the stuff that's in your phone when you got to walk up to a
Yeah.
mountaintop to try to get a good signal, which
Right.
we found out when we went. Our first place that we went to was Buena Vista, and there was a campground there we stayed at. Well, we had to literally walk up a big hill to get maybe one bar for reception.
Ooh.
And God, if you moved a little bit, then it's gone. Then you got to call it back again. It's like, oh, God. But that's not that expensive. And I think we're paying $70 or $75 a month for Dish. So
Wait, is that separate from, or is that the Wi-Fi company, Dish?
no, this is something different.
Oh, okay. So that's your cable.
Yeah.
Television.
Oh, okay. Wow. So that's not that far from our prices.
Yeah.
We're like at 140 or so now since we switched.
Yeah.
138, but that includes Wi-Fi, cable.
That's what we had back in Colorado. We had cable. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it was about $150 a month we were paying, something like that. And then you get the landline in there too.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you have a landline. Okay.
Okay.
No, not out here, but
Oh,
back
no.
there.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You were mentioning that, to get healthcare, you have to travel all this. So is where you live, you need a car, I assume?
Yep.
Yes.
No
Okay.
buses, no taxis,
No public transportation available outside? Like a
No
block
Uber,
away?
no nothing, right?
Okay.
No anything.
Well, they must have Uber, right?
No.
Well, most of the people that we asked to, we have to be specific where we live. Otherwise, if we want to have, let's say, somebody to work on the RV or do something around the house, good luck trying to get somebody who wants to come out here.
Ah.
So that's a little bit of a
Mostly Uber is in Tucson. It's
Okay.
in the Tucson area. You won't find it much out here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So you either have to drive, and so both of you would have to either go together. If one of you wanted to go, let's say, I don't know, let's say you had a doctor's appointment and the other one had to pick up groceries or something, you'd either have to wait for one or the other, or do you have two cars? You don't need two cars.
It would be nice to have two cars, but the one car, if we have to do shopping and I go to a doctor appointment, then Donna could always take the truck and go and do the shopping and then come back, or vice versa.
Right. That's true.
All right. How far is the nearest international airport?
Tucson. And then they have, I think, another one in Phoenix, too.
Right. Sure. It's the big ones in Phoenix, yeah. And the Tucson, that's about an hour and a half, you said, right?
An hour and a half, yeah.
Oh, that's not bad. So I have a question. It's just interesting to me. Donna, I read somewhere that you were a mime. And did you really work with Marcel Marceau?
I did.
Can you tell us a little about that?
I had a chance study with him in Ohio, near Columbus, Ohio, a place called Kenyon College, where he was teaching every summer. I started becoming very interested in mime when I was living in Chicago, and I saw a wonderful mime performance at Northwestern University. Ever since I saw that mime performance, I saw this lady portraying a washing machine. I was just so taken. I was tapping him, and I kept telling him all during the performance, that's what I want to do. That's what I really want to do. And I started taking lessons in Chicago with a teacher one-on-one. And then I moved to Colorado, and started taking more lessons through a free university and became pretty proficient enough for this teacher that was working with me said, I think you need to go to professional school. So I found this professional school in near Columbus, Ohio, and studied there for a number of years until one year I was extended an invitation. I heard that Marcel Marceau, my childhood hero, was going to teach there. Wow. And I thought, oh my God, unbelievable. Do I want to be a part of that? You better believe it. So I had a chance to study with him for 3 summers.
Wow.
And it was absolutely mind-boggling in many ways. It was very, very physical work. Mm-hmm. He was not an easy teacher to study with. He had a lot of his own ways. Basically, I did learn a lot from him. I learned from a distance because he basically kept first-year students watching his back, how he moved from the back across a room, or across the room. He didn't allow us to look at the front part of his body, the first year students. When we came back again, he says, okay, you're back. Now you get to see more of me. So little bit by pieces, but get to really study him and learn a lot from him. He would stand on stage in front of us and take us through his famous pieces. And we would just kind of mimic him behind him as he was going through famous pieces such as The Mask or Pip Goes to Sea, some of his really famous pieces. So I was thrilled. I really thrilled that I had a chance to study with him, and I learned a lot from him.
Did he talk much?
He got his message across. Let's put it that way. He was he would whisper. His normal speaking voice was a whisper. So we would all be listening as close as we could as he was just barely whispering. If he would want to be next to you or be with you, he would let you know. And if he didn't want to be with you, he would let you know in no uncertain terms. One time I reached out to grab him. I wanted to ask him about Charlie Chaplin, who was a very, very famous comedian and who was Chaplin's idol. I wanted to talk to him about Chaplin.
Marcel Marceau's idol, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just adored Chaplin with his physical comedy and his little tramp. And I just grabbed Marceau's arm. I just wanted a couple minutes just to ask him about how that experience was. And he just pulled his arm away from me and he said, not now. And he never got back to me about it. So
that's funny.
He made himself perfectly clear.
That's so interesting.
I love the fact that he's the only person to have a speaking role in the movie called Silent Movie. I love that.
That's ironic. He normally does not really talk a heck of a lot, but when he does talk, you get what he's telling you.
Oh, so he's a man of a few words, and every word is gold.
Man of a few words, very strict. Very perfectionistic, very difficult teacher to study with.
And Donna, do you perform mime anymore?
Yes, I do. Not as much as I used to. I had my own company called Mime Works, and I would perform on-stage performances. I'd go to schools. I'd work with kids. I'd teach them mime. I would do library performances. I would do weddings, banquets, birthdays. I'd go to old people's homes. I just do a lot of different events.
And do you have any plans to do any shows in Pearce?
Not anything in the future, but I have performed. When we first moved out here, I performed at a number of libraries. The librarians were very anxious. They said, you know pantomime? Wow, we would love to have you perform.
Oh, wow.
And I possibly might have a chance to perform at a nearby school.
Mm-hmm.
So
nice. So the two of you have brought culture to Pearce. Look at that. You are the stars of Pearce, man. That's so cool.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, how has it been living through the pandemic in a rural town?
Well, it's interesting because when people were hoarding all the toilet paper and paper toweling and all that stuff in Tucson, when they got done with there in Tucson, they would filter their way through Pearce, and all of a sudden our shelves were empty.
Oh
my goodness.
Really?
Yeah.
They come all the way to Pearce?
Yeah.
Huh. So wait, what did you guys do? Did you stock up or anything? Because, it's got to be a little anxiety ridden.
We didn't really want to, we didn't, like everybody else, we weren't hoarders. We thought, there's plenty to go around. What we can't find now, all right, so we'll go maybe a couple days later and pick up stuff. We tried to do without, we didn't want to feed into the feeding frenzy.
So talking of toilet paper and other necessities, is there a supermarket in town, or where do you have to go for that stuff? Right. Oh, there's a Dollar General. That's it.
Yeah.
And is that walking distance?
Yeah. It's about 2 blocks away.
Okay.
Oh wow! And so can you also walk to a coffee shop?
Yeah, about 2 blocks away.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
The other direction.
So when you do need a supermarket, how far is that? How far is the closest supermarket?
We can go to Benson.
About
Wilcox.
Wilcox is about a half an hour drive, and Benson is about 40 minutes.
Okay. And do they have just regular supermarkets?
Yeah, they got a Safeway in both
Mhm.
Wilcox and Benson.
Mhm.
If you want a Fry's, which is like a King Soopers or a Ralph's, I don't know what it is out by you guys. They go by different names. When we were in California, it was Ralph's.
Mhm.
And so out here, it's Fry's. When we were up in camping somewhere with the camper on our way up to Montana, and that's where we came across the Smiths.
Oh.
And that's another
What if you're interested in like natural foods? What's the far nearest town?
Tucson.
Okay,
Yeah.
so they're not.
They've got a Whole Foods and they've got a Sprouts up there and a natural grocers.
Okay, and a Trader Joe's.
Yeah.
All right, can't leave out
You
that
and your Trader Joe's,
man.
Gil. So during the pandemic, I assume you still have your trailer, right?
Yeah.
So do you plan when the pandemic is over or not as severe? Do you plan to go out and travel again?
Well, we did over this past summer. We went up to Montana for about 6 weeks, and then we also did another trip up to Vegas for our niece's wedding, and then spent some time in Zion. But that was without the trailer, because you can get 700 miles to our F-150 to a tank of gas.
Wow.
Where you got the trailer, it's about 300 miles.
Oh, my goodness.
Gas, yeah. So
just going back to your neighborhood, what about any places to fulfill prescriptions? Is there like a Walgreens, a CVS, anything close by?
Tucson or Benson.
Okay, so you guys have to be really organized to have an ongoing list of things so you don't forget, right? Like in the middle of the night.
We're not.
Yeah. And is the Dollar, what did you say, Dollar General?
Yeah.
Okay, is that open like all hours, or is it typically
about 10 o'clock and then they close?
Oh, all right. That's not so bad. Yeah, I personally, I'm a fan of the Dollar Tree. Everything is $1, which I didn't know until I actually went into one. So it's so easy for the cashiers. You have literally every item is $1 and you don't have to figure it out. And it's such a fair name to the store, Dollar Tree.
I don't like any of these dollar stores because they tend to go into small towns. I don't know if this happened to you, small town. They tend to go into small towns and open up, and then the only supermarket in town can't compete with them. So it ends up closing and people have to drive for miles to go to a supermarket. So, it's okay if they open, but don't open in these small towns. It's not a good thing.
Yeah, but if they didn't open in this small town, they couldn't get milk.
I bet this small town used to have a supermarket.
Well, it's not there anymore. Oh, you think it's because of Dollar Tree?
Because Dollar General killed it. I don't know if that's the case.
We had a family tree out here, which is just like a Dollar General. And they went out of business because everybody liked Dollar General. So,
But was there a supermarket, like Gene said?
No.
But you don't know. Say 10 years back if there was a supermarket, right?
Well, it's not really that big of a community around here. I mean, it's only, like you said, 2,200 people. It's like and people want to. You can't get a Safeway out here because they're too expensive, I think.
Yeah.
Right. But generally in these small towns, there's a little supermarket usually.
We used to have a place called the Produce Wagon, and you could go in there and get like milk and produce and fruit and potatoes and stuff like that.
But they closed down.
Yeah. Oh, that's sad. Yeah.
What about like farmers markets and stuff like that? Is that also Tucson or
They
Wilcox?
probably have stuff like that out here where you can actually stop by a farm and do some shopping, but I've never been able to find one or get an idea from somebody that, you go to these guys and you can get whatever you want. I don't know for sure. Yeah. I know there's a Curry Farms around here and you can get eggs and milk and stuff like that. So I don't know what else they have because I've never stopped in.
Sure. What about social activities? I mean, now that you guys are there, we know that club is going to pick up. What about if you wanted to learn pottery or, I don't know, quilting? Well, you mentioned there's quilters, but what about those other things? Where would you find that if you were interested?
Well, they have people that teach these things over at the community center. That's where Donna does her yoga classes. That's where the quilters come in on Monday right after her class.
There's not very many class offerings. There used to be a gentleman who would do dog training. We would take advantage of that, quilting, and and basically line dancing. And that was pretty much it.
What's with the line dancing? Is that like big?
Never went there never had any interest. I would rather be out hiking and enjoying the great, beautiful mountains.
Yeah, so hiking must be great there,
right?
huh?
There's the outdoor activities, sports and all that.
Yeah, outdoor activities, great. Between the Chiricahua Mountains, the Cochise Stronghold, where Cochise hung out. A lot of great hiking areas there.
Is there a hiking club or a running club?
I actually started a hiking club.
Good for you.
Yeah, I decided, there has to be some more activities here.
Yeah.
So there was a whole bunch of my yoga students who wanted to hike. And I said, hey, let's pick this day and let's go out for a hike.
Oh, that's great.
So every week, every Wednesday, we all get together and we go pick different places to hike.
Wow.
So
and how many people usually go?
How often?
How many people usually go?
It could range anywhere from 4 to maybe 6 to 8 people.
Well, that's great.
So you guys coming from Chicago, growing up in quite a busy kind of area, do you feel lonely out there? Or is this a time where, you guys have the quiet that you need and it sounds like you're doing all these other things, but is it kind of lonely or no?
For me, probably more for me than for Gary. Gary is more of a homebody. He loves to stay inside, keeps himself occupied reading, whatever. Me, I have to be outdoors. I have to be active and always doing something, always keeping busy. Mm-hmm. So for me, was really very, very isolating. I really felt very isolated until I started my yoga classes and started to get to know people more. But more for me and less for Gary.
So do you go to the coffee shop often? That sounds like a cool place. And when there isn't, like you said, a band playing or something, is it just like neighbors getting together at the coffee shop? Have you?
Yeah, basically, yeah. People can just stop in. Well, they're only open 3 days a week.
What?
So, yeah.
You can only get caffeine 3 days a week.
3 days a week. Yeah.
That's good.
That's good. Is it the weekends? When are they open?
Yeah, it's Thursday. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Yeah.
Oh.
They're thinking about adding on an extra day, but sometimes it's hard to get the help out here because, somebody will. It was like the Dollar General, they got a revolving door on that place where people are just constantly coming and going. They'll work for maybe a month and then they're gone.
Wow.
Maybe it's on to another town.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Is the coffee shop the only restaurant or is there another restaurant?
We got the Sunsides Cafe and the Stronghold Cafe. So, and
that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And those are open every day?
I believe so, yes.
I have a question back to Donna's childhood. Donna, in your book, you said you had an abusive childhood. How has that affected you later in life?
Well, I think at first it kind of held me back. And then I started thinking to myself, well, okay, I can either feel victimized and act that way, or I could try to do something about my situation and try to reach out to other people. And that was really a big reason for my writing my first book, is to reach out to people who were also overcoming massive adversities and to let them know that you don't have to be victimized by your circumstances. You can always choose to overcome rather than succumb to your adversities. In any situation, it's pretty much your choice. It was difficult. It really took a lot of therapy that I went through a very marvelous type of therapy called EMDR.
What does that stand for? Eye movement desensitization, resensitizing. It's focused on moving past, either by a machine, by looking at different lights going past your eyes, or fingers, the therapist's fingers, to move past your traumas. And it was very, very helpful. I went through it for quite a long period of time, but it really did help me, really gave me back my life again. Wow. So good for you. And I started wanting to do things and, reach out to other people as well. So it spurred me. It spurred me on to try to overcome my adversities.
But it is a lot of work. You have to relive everything that you lived through. And a lot of people don't want to do that.
Right.
They'll immerse themselves in drugs and stuff to try to kill the pain. But for the most part, if you really want to get rid of it, you have to work through it. And that meant dredging up all the old memories and going through all the crying jags and everything, that every time you had to bring this. I mean, there were times where she would just be drained when I would see her after one of those sessions.
Oh my goodness.
And how long were these sessions? Like an hour?
It was about an hour. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was not, there really wasn't much in those days as far as therapy for children who were abused. Mm-hmm. But this particular therapist that I eventually hitched up with, she was just getting into this EMDR, and she asked me, she says, wow, things that we've tried before in the past were not very helpful, but maybe this, I feel like this would be very helpful for you. Would you be willing to give it a try? I said, yeah, I really would. I want my life back again. Mm-hmm. I really want to. I don't want to feel victimized. I want to feel alive and vital.
Wow,
well, and she would go through flashbacks of all the things that happened back home. And this was the first time she actually went flashback free, where she didn't have to worry about it anymore. They were a thing of the past.
Oh my God. This is,
and it's kind of like post-traumatic stress syndrome.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Yeah.
Goes through.
Right.
Anything that you've had to encounter, just, it's a terrible thing to have to live with every day.
Right.
And then it's no different from, abuse situations at home.
Wow. Because I had heard about EMDR. I worked at a college. One of the counselors had mentioned it because I had mentioned that, it takes probably forever to kind of unload your story to a therapist. And what if you need help like yesterday? Will it take forever? And what if you don't really trust the person, or they sit with you for weeks and weeks and weeks, and then they just give you a prescription to a drug? And she said, you know what might work for you, or what might work for me is, or what she liked was EMDR. And I became fascinated with it, but it was so trauma based, So when you brought it up, I was like, oh my God, I know exactly what that is. And not everyone has that skill, license, or, the training for it, from what I understand.
Well, this woman was good.
She was wonderful. I mean, she was just, I felt like she was more of a friend than an actual therapist.
So you trusted her. Yeah.
You were absolutely right about the trust component. If you trust this therapist, she can take you, or he can take you to the ends of the earth, and you'll go with them because you trust them. You know that their goal is to help you, to help you get over whatever trauma or traumas you endured as a child. For me, it really worked. It really worked. It didn't work immediately. And yes, there was a lot of tears that I cried, and a lot of, was not an easy thing to go through, but it helped me break through to the other side and see that there's life on the other side.
Yeah.
Wow. We're so lucky that you got through that, because you and Gary went on to live these incredible lives. It's just incredible. And and
I think so much of that is because you are very open. You're very open-minded, and you can embrace that. I can definitely see that. I'm less trusting. I really don't trust anyone. That's why I have that go away sign, as you can tell. Out the door. Okay. Right, no, I'm so happy that it worked.
But this has been wonderful so far. And so as we conclude, do you have any advice for someone who's thinking about moving to a rural town to retire?
Make sure that you don't mind that the nearest shopping area is 40, 50-minute drive away. Make sure that you do your research on the neighborhood. Talk to some of the people. Talk to your neighbors. Do your research. If you're a city person, it's probably not the place for you. But if it's somewhere that you want some peace and quiet, somewhere that you want to be out in nature, then by all means explore that neighborhood. Go around talking to people who are in that neighborhood. Just really, really explore it really well. And if you have to visit a number of times, go do that. Make sure that that neighborhood is really going to work for you.
And Gary, you have any advice?
Well, I haven't had, Donna's got a lot of friends out here, female companions. She gets together with them from time to time. I don't have much of that. I think I had a really good friend back in Colorado, and a couple of them actually. And then one really good friend back in Chicago. I actually had a group that I used to get together with. Like every Tuesday, we'd go to the park. We'd barbecue. And it was a fun time.
Yeah.
Until I moved away. And then it's like, oh, okay, this is going to be a new life.
Yeah.
So I don't know. You know, for me, I'm an extrovert by nature, but an introvert when it comes to meeting people. I don't socialize well until I actually get to know somebody. Then sometimes it can't shut me up.
That's for sure.
That is so funny. Okay.
That's kind of like Gene, you know?
Yeah, I'm an introvert.
He's an introvert, definitely. I'm the extrovert.
But when you get to know me, again, you can't
it's
shut
like,
me up,
stop, be quiet. Right. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So just to let everybody know again, remind everybody, the wonderful book, the wonderful autobiography by Donna Brown is called Finding Medusa, The Making of an Unlikely Rock Star. It's a great read. And Donna's new book, which just came out, is a murder thriller mystery called One Moonlit Night.
Yeah. And we're going to have all that information in the show notes. With that, thank you guys so much for joining our podcast. This is so exciting. And good luck with all your playing at the clubs. We expect your faces to be at you are now entering Pearce, Arizona sign when we drive through.
Home of Donna and Gary Brown.
Yes, yes. You will find mime, pantomime, chair yoga, all right, rock and roll, everything in this town. So you people out there in Pearce, you better appreciate these two rock stars.
Yeah, you better.
Okay.
They did when they came out yesterday, so it was a fun time for everyone.
Yeah, it sounds like they were great, the audience.
Oh, my God. That's so great. That's so great. We're so happy for you. We're so glad to have met you.
Likewise. Thank you, guys.
All right. Take care.
All right. You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you know someone who's relocated for retirement and wishes to share their story with us, please reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. Our email address is gg@retirethere.com. Our website is retirethere.com, and you may follow us on Twitter @retirethere_. Now, if you've liked our show, please subscribe and rate it in Apple Podcasts. In the meantime, be well.